Hi Doreen, what can I do for you today?
So I would like to be brighter around my face with pops of lavender as well.
And a haircut?
Yes.
All right, you got it. I'm just gonna get Doreen sectioned right to the middle of her ear, down to the top of her head. I'm gonna go ahead and clip that away, and we're gonna do that on each side. And then I'm gonna also section out her front. I'm going to mix up 35 grams of developer. I'm gonna mix in 25 grams of silk lift powder. For our pops of lavender, we're using Pastel Lavender by Illuven Play today. And I mixed up about 45 grams of lavender. Just taking a little slice and my foil, and I'm applying the lightener. Make sure our foil is nice and secure. Then I'm going to take another slice, leaving just a tiny bit of hair out. Got our foil nice and tight. We're gonna apply our lightener, lightly feather it up. We're gonna take another little tiny slice. And this time we're gonna start to pivot more around her face to go with the shape of her face. Apply our lightener. I'm gonna do one more blonde one. We're gonna take another diagonal back parting. This time I'm gonna make this one lavender. And we're still doing the micro slices. So we're moving on up to the head. We're on our last couple foils here in this section. I was alternating lavender and blonde as I was working up her side. This whole section is really pivoted around her face so we can get that maximum brightness with all tiny micro slices. Then we're gonna move over, repeat the same exact thing that we did on this side to this side of her head. So I don't need to add in more pops of highlights there, so I'm just gonna do some slices of lavender from her nape up. So we're gonna take some diagonal back partings here at her neckline so that when she pulls up her hair, she can see those pops of lavender here. And we'll take a nice little slice and grab some of our lavender. Another diagonal back slice. We're gonna pull down another section of hair with a diagonal slice. Picking out her really brighter pieces from our last appointment so that they can be lavender. So here we're gonna now take that little point and we're gonna do a straight parting and kind of marry that triangle together. And we're gonna keep continuing the same sectioning until we get to the top of her crown. So we're about at the her occipital bone to her crown area, where we're gonna start picking up our highlights again. So we're gonna start again with those little tiny micro slices in a diagonal section. Well, these foils will be our lavender foils. So we'll do our micro slices, grab our lavender, and then we're just gonna repeat with our lightener and every other our lavender as we complete our foils. So as I moved up to the very top of her head in her crown, I did start with some straight slices just at the top here, and we'll finish that up in these last couple foils. So my last one was a lavender, my next one will be a lightener foil. We're just gluing down our lightener to our foil and lightly feathering up to the top and painting down the rest of our lightener, leaving out her tips that are already really blonde. And we have this tiny triangle section. I'm gonna get a tiny slice out of there to connect everything with our final foil to be blonde, so her blonde all sits on top. That's our last foil. So we have all our lavender slices underneath here until we get to the occipital bone to the crown, where we're alternating with our blonde and our lavender. And then in the front, we have our blonde pieces and our lavenders working pivoted around her face to get her the brightest around her face. Doreen will now process for about 40 minutes just in room temperature. So we're back with Doreen. She processed for about 30 minutes. Now we're just gonna start washing. So I'm gonna pull out all of our foils. I'm going to shampoo Doreen with our Goldwell Dual Senses Bond Pro, and that will be followed with the Dual Sense Bond Pro conditioner after we apply our toner at the end. For Doreen's toner, I will be doing a root tap with colorants. So I will mix 6N and 6SB with 7 volume developer. I'm going to do 20 milliliters of 7 volume, and then 5 milliliters of 6N and 5 milliliters of 6SB. And we will mix that together. And then I will dump this into a bowl because I am going to paint this on at her root with a brush. Just has to be mixed through a bottle together to make sure that it fully mixes. We're going to add our Goldwell thickener to thicken the product a little bit so it is easier to apply. Then for our end toner, we're going to mix 7 volume along with our gloss tones in 10 AV and 10 PV. It is mixed equal parts, so it is 1-to-1. So we'll do 40 milliliters of 7 volume and then 20 milliliters of 10 AV and 20 milliliters of 10 PV. We're gonna prep Doreen with our Structure Equalizer spray to even out her porosity so that her toner takes evenly throughout her hair. We're gonna make sure her ends have that really good, and then we'll brush that through. Then I'm gonna part from her part line down to her ear and push these front hairs and clip it out of the way. Same thing on this side. And then I'm gonna comb everything back to me. Then we will take our root tap, make sure our brush is clean. So I just brush that off the side of the brush onto the side of the bowl, and then pick up a small bead of color. And I'm gonna find where I just did that last foil, which is about right there. And we're just gonna do a tiny little root tap to blur any foil lines so we have a nice seamless blend and a nice grow out. And we're just gonna do that all the way up through the top of this section. We're almost through our top section. And that's our top section there. Then I usually go right based off our part line to make sure that is fully covered, leaving out her front pieces because we want them to be the brightest. Then I usually take a section to the top. This way I have more control and I'm holding less hair. And I'll just fold that up out of my way. And we'll start vertical slices going back the head, working towards the front of her face. Just like we did on our previous side, we're gonna do the same thing, vertical sections going back behind her ear, pulled back away from her face. And we're leaving out those tiny little front pieces so that they are the brightest and are toned last. And then we're going to take our top section and still the same thing, vertical back. Now I'm going to just lightly root tap those last sections that we did leave out. Just very lightly feathering those because I want those to be the brightest. We will take Doreen to the sink and we will apply our gloss tone at the sink. I'm moving Doreen's front pieces away so that they can be the brightest and toned last. I'm going to shake up our gloss tone really, really well. And I'm going to start applying in nice clean sections in the back of her head. Apply our gloss tone from root to end. We're going to apply her face frame. All her little baby hairs around her face are applied. Then to refresh her bottom, I'm just going to put some gloss tone in my hand and lift up at her neck. Make sure her back is covered. After we get Doreen applied, she will process for 10 minutes with the gloss tone, and then we will shampoo and then condition. We're gonna start with our KMS ThermaShape Hot Flex Spray as our heat protectant. So we're gonna spray that throughout the hair. I'm going to use our Rich Repair 6 FX Serum for silkiness and smoothing. We will also use it as our leave-in conditioner. We'll apply that from ends to root. And then we will finish with our Bond Pro Day and Night Bond Booster, since we did use the shampoo and conditioner, just so that we have our system together for extra bond building. And that will also be applied from ends to root. And we will do our blowout with our Varis blow dryer and Varis Borbis bristle brush. We are going to clean up Doreen's ends with just a little trim. So I do have her front from her part line down to the back of her ear pushed out of the way, and I brought everything back. I'm just gonna take my comb and guide my hand down. We're gonna take about a ½ inch, just marrying her back section with the front section to make sure we are cutting evenly. We're just gonna point cut. And we're gonna walk that forward. Then Doreen, if you can look out the window, this is going to alleviate that hair that sits above their shoulder, just to get that tiny peak. We're going to have her do the same on the other side. We're going to clean up her face frame, triangle section in the front, and then we will slide cut. Just gonna make sure everything is even. And we are good with our trim. We're gonna prep Doreen with her thermal styling with our KMS Hairstay Working Hairspray. Has heat protectant up to 390 degrees. So we're gonna make sure it's really shaken really well. We will spray our hair down. Brush that through the hair. And now we will start curling. Then we'll take our next section and we'll repeat until we are finished curling the head. And to finish off our styling, we are going to use the KMS Hair Play Dry Wax for a nice flexible touchable hold with a matte finish. And then with a wide tooth comb, I will brush out her curls. I'll take some of the dry wax and spray it directly into my hand and use that to pat down those rest of those flyaways. And this is our finished look. We went with a nice icy toner since Doreen does not like any warmth in her hair, along with those pops of lavender, as you can see where we placed them down here at the bottom. So it looks like we did way more than what we did. From our last appointment, we did do a full so that she can have these pops of lavender in this appointment. So it's very subtle lavender, but she is very bright and cool all around that face frame that we focus on with those pivot diagonal back sections. So she feels way blonder than what she actually is.